Hi, I'm Brad, and I'm here to show off something cool. Not my face this time, but an ominous black screen. Ooh, what are those UI buttons? Well, they're probably not that special if you own a Steam Deck, but it is special, and this video is going to explain why. So, this is a Steam Deck being streamed to my Apple Vision Pro via the iPad version of the Steam Link app, which is actually nothing special, right? Like, it's actually been available day one for the Vision Pro, and it works just as you expect. Nothing specialized for Vision Pro, but works, and will kind of showcase why this UI is special. So, GameScope is the compositor that SteamOS runs to do a lot of things. It's very low latency, it runs very well, and makes the Steam Deck gaming experience possible and really enjoyable. And also allows you to change stuff on the fly, such as the refresh rate and all that great stuff. It's fantastic. And the interesting thing is for years, Valve has been building a VR session and headless sessions of the GameScope compositor to work with Steam VR. So it was pretty obvious to me that at some point they were going to use GameScope as sort of like an overlay system for whatever headset or whatever thing Valve is doing in the future for VR. But there's never been a way, like with the Steam Deck, to get anything working. Now, if we go back around 6 months, there is a very special Valve internal menu that you can activate via some string tweaks in the Steam OS settings. That will pull up a Valve internal menu that's purely meant for Valve to debug things and fix things and sort of activate different settings for them to interact with different things easily to build out the software for whatever projects they're working for on SteamOS and Steam Deck. And they added actually a full section of settings for VR development options. And those buttons actually never did anything. They never worked. It would just like make your Steam Deck turn into a black screen, and you couldn't get out of it until you rebooted the Steam Deck. Until this morning. What you're seeing here is actually part of the activation of the option to allow you to see overlays open as their own desktops. But this UI here is brand new, even though it looks very similar to the UI you would expect from the regular version of Steam Deck's UI. Normally you would press the Steam button here, and I know you can't see it here because all the buttons actually don't work anymore once you activate this mode. The Steam Deck button's useless. Goodbye. Normally there would be a whole menu that would pop up on the left here, and you would be able to interact with home, library, store, community, photos, media, downloads, and settings. And you would sort of X out that menu using the buttons and put on the actual controllers here. But this is different. This only works by touching the touchscreen, like here, as you can see. Oh, it did something there for a second. But yeah, that's the only way that this works normally. You have to touch things, and it's always persistent. This will never go away. But the reason I bring that up is, if you think about it from a sort of VR standpoint, and this is why the Vision Pro is kind of useful for showing this off, imagine this overlay and this persistent menu was in your VR AR space, and you just tapped it like this with hand tracking and finger tracking and whatever. It works, right? Well, I want to take it one step forward, because there was actually a big data mine we did months ago in SteamVR where we found something called a SteamVR chat that also had references to eye and finger tracking emulating input. And it seemed like to us at that time that Valve was testing internally the idea of what sort of Apple's input method is for the Vision Pro, but for whatever they were doing with this GameScope overlay and overlays in general that are currently not shipped in the public versions of SteamVR. So if you think about how this emulates a touch gesture by touching it, you can also use the Vision Pro, obviously, to stare at an object and pinch. I like how it's actually like kind of trying to do stuff here, but gets screwed up when I click that button. So my point is, I think Valve will make something eventually. And I do think that overlays and this whole spatial computing thing, I think Valve's going to do their own take on it. Like, I really think that they've been building out GameScope to work in this sort of scenario. I think they're kind of building SteamVR as well to kind of make people think about overlays. And I don't even think they have to make people think as much, because I think Apple's headset has really made people imagine how these headsets can give a cool entertainment and gaming experience, but also be a multi sort of facet device where you can have multiple windows. In Valve, they have GameScope, they have Steam Deck, they have the Steam OS. Now they have to figure out how to transfer that power and that computing and that platform to a headset. And it makes me wonder if they're just going to go this route. So there was a device actually announced at MWC that is just a controller. Ignore the glasses for a second, just the controller, right? And it has a full Ryzen 8840HS, which is a brand new chip, kind of something you would see in an ROG Ally. It's limited to 35 watts, but I can imagine Valve releasing an ARM headset that would pair with a controller that has x86 compute to run every Steam Deck game in a very faceted, specialized experience, and also allow you to run other stuff alongside it in their own sort of windows with its own special UI with eye and finger tracking and controller input. This is the first step. If this ever gets built out more and I can show off more stuff related to all the work that GameScope has for overlays and nested desktops and headless experiences, which are all things constantly iterated on already on the GameScope GitHub. You can see all the commits pushed by Valve and their contractors for that. This is a future that is happening at some point, and it's very interesting to start thinking about now in headless computing with VR headsets, because when you control the photons going to your eyes, which headsets can actually do compared to a TV that's just like over there, you turn it on and it's going everywhere, you can have a specialized experience, then you can start doing really amazing, collaborative, interesting stuff with whatever you want to do. So yeah, that's it. Very cool thing. Glad I got it working, kind of. We'll see if this gets developed more as time goes on. But yeah, goodbye.